So there is this really cool e-commerce product that probably all of you know. And they just created a Vue Storefront 2 connector. And in this talk, they will reveal it. So I won't be spoiling the surprise of who this product is. And so I'm going to give the word to Dominik from LEONEX and Lior from CyberFuze. Have fun, guys.
Hey, welcome to the Magento 2 Vue Storefront Next integration. Finally, a cool dude in the hood. Okay, let's start. So, who are we? We are basically the guys that you call when you actually have a real problem. And yes, we love e-commerce. So, we had a big challenge. That's how we got into this integration. We had a company, a huge e-commerce company, with over 1 million unique configurable products. In addition to that, they had over $100 million in sales. They really care about user experience, about the speed of the website, and they want cool custom solutions like argument reality, sorting products by locations. They have over 350 stores. And their checkout flow is completely different than a regular e-commerce store out there. So, it's just an online store, right? What could possibly go wrong with Magento? Magento thinks different. They don't think it's a regular e-commerce website. As you can see here, this was the performance of the first version we created with a regular Magento frontend. Probably everybody is facing the same issue. So, while working on the project, we had such a long nights without sleeping, trying to understand what's happening there, who thought about it, opening the GitHub issues of Magento, seeing like thousands of open issues and problems, and there have to be a solution for that. So we went over, talked with the whole team, and wrote some cons and pros for the Magento ecosystem. The cons: Magento is outdated code base, right? It have a really bad performance, easy to make mistakes, and really hard to maintain. But the pros: a lot of integrations and modules out there. Whatever requirement the client has, there is probably an existing solution, and a lot of features on the backend. So let's rethink it again. If the dashboard is that good, but the performance are pretty bad, let's just separate them, right? Here comes the Vue Storefront Next position. Vue Storefront Next and Magento backend, it's a really good fit. Finally, we can come down, understand the front end will always work, and the backend, Magento, will just do it okay, as it's always doing it. So, how did we build the Magento integration for Vue Storefront Next? Basically, all of the functionalities of Magento got well coded by the Magento GraphQL standards. We went over and opened the docs and make sure all of the integration wrote exactly like Magento wants it. As you can see here, we implemented all of the API endpoints of Magento, make sure that all of the GraphQL and all of the endpoints are correct by the Magento tutorials and the Magento documentation. In addition to that, we implemented all getters based on Vue Storefront Next getters. So we made sure that the data that's coming from Magento is well formatted for the Vue Storefront Next generic types. In addition to that, we wanted to make sure we can extend the regular composables of Vue Storefront Next. Because what pros do we have in Magento if we can't extend the regular code? So we really took into consideration the ability to extend the composables of Vue Storefront Next. And we wanted to make sure that when a client is coming or when a user is coming and using Vue Storefront Next, he can easily add new functions to the composables based on the custom extensions out there. So as you can see here, we are basically taking the use card composable and adding a apply loyalty card function on top of it. In that way, we integrated a new extension that the client wanted us to use, and we extended the use card composable. So yeah, it's fast, but how fast? So the core concept behind this is like headless development, right? we're basically eliminating the Magento frontend and PHP rendering, and instead we are querying just the GraphQL. In that way, we don't need to worry about custom extensions, weak implementation in the frontend, and how it's affecting our customers' experience. But it wasn't enough for us. There is even more. In that moment, we understood we have a real solution. But in the moment we had that real solution, we wanted to even make it much faster and much scalable. So we're basically having Vue Storefront Next and Storefront API and Magento integration together. This will probably will have the best experience for your customer. So introducing Storefront API v2.0. Storefront API, for somebody that don't know, it's basically a GraphQL API. It's easy to use, it's fully extendable, it's blazing fast, and it's based on Elasticsearch and Redis. It works great with Magento 1, Magento 2, OpenCart, and much more e-commerce solution out of the box. And now it's working very, very good with Storefront API, with Vue Storefront Next, sorry. So what is the key concept and how we thought about this solution? We basically separated the high-load API from the low-load API. We're calling high-load the Storefront API. Basically, those are like products, attributes, categories, CMS pages, CMS blocks, and more extensions that you can write yourself on top of Storefront API. For example, here you can see the store locator. In addition to that, all of the low-load API endpoints will be called to the Magento GraphQL, like orders, authentication, cart, and more special modules that you already have that has been built on Magento. How to install Storefront API? Basically, you're just installing the Vue Storefront Bridge Magento 2 extension. You're going over the configuration, saving the configuration, and you're good to go. After that, the Magento indexer will basically index all of your products and catalog and CMS pages and CMS blocks to the Elasticsearch as documents. After that, you need to deploy the Storefront API latest package from GitHub. And in that moment, you have a clean GraphQL endpoint that you can query those high-load types, like products and catalog. After that, you will need to install the Vue Storefront Next Storefront package. That package is basically implemented, as you can see, products, categories, Faceit composables, CMS pages, blocks, and all of, as you can see here in the example, our own extensions that we build for our client. So it's really easy to customize it and add onto it. And now for the cool thing. That's how it's basically working. As you can see here, we imported the Storefront API package, and we imported use product and product getters from it. In addition to that, we imported the Vue Storefront Magento package and implement the use wishlet and use cart from it. Basically, we can use both packages live on our team, and we can switch between the low-load and the high-load API. In that way, we can ensure the products are coming fast, the catalog is loading very fast, and when we need to actually use the cart and the checkout functionality of Magento or custom extensions, we can do it. What's cool about it is that in the server-side render, the products are coming, but when we actually calling the low-load, the Magento API, the slow API, it's not blocking our requests. Okay, so what pros do we have and what features do we have for the Storefront API? It's fully customizable. You can do whatever you want. You can customize it, add your own types, change it. It's a clean Node.js code. Easy to write custom extensions. As you can see in our project, in our case study, we wrote a location service there. It's easy to write custom extensions. It's very, very fast. It's a clean JavaScript code. It's written in JavaScript. It's based on a microservice architecture. It's really good. Coming, we're in 2021 Magento. It's very, very high performance, and it doesn't have all the overhead of Magento, and especially without those kind of things. So what's next for Vue Storefront Next, especially in Magento and Storefront API integrations? It will be fully maintained by us with the help of the community, of course. Caching and multi-loaders concept in Faceit for even higher performance. That means right now we are loading Faceit from multi-endpoints, and we are basically blocking the requests. So we will implement multi-loaders way. In that way, we will ensure we have a better performance. Next version is coming in the next month, but right now there is a working version outside, and we will build custom extensions integrations for Vue Storefront next. In conclusions, finally there is a hope for all of those slow Magento websites by harnessing Vue Storefront Next power. It's easy to write new integrations and extensions based on Magento and extend the regular composables with Magento features. And we're achieving even faster maintainable ecosystem with Storefront API. We don't have to use it. It probably will be better to use it in a big website if no one wants to use Elasticsearch and stuff. But when you actually have a really big websites that have a lot of traffic and have a lot of orders, it will be a really, really good solution. So, problem solved. Thank you.
Hi guys, and welcome to my part of this talk. I'm Dominik, I'm 24 years old, and I originally trained as a media designer, but during the training I discovered, well, the media designer thing isn't quite the right thing for me, and I found programming. So I started doing this as well, and after I finished the training as media designer, I started working as a full-time developer, and now I'm for 6 years in the industry. At the beginning of 2020, I had the opportunity to start working at LEONEX, and this opportunity actually brought me here. So who are we? We are a medium-sized enterprise located in Paderborn in Germany, and we specialize in websites, B2B, B2C commerce, and software development and online marketing. We have an overall experience of 10 years, and in these 10 years, we gathered a lot of experience in working with Magento. So to start going with the trend of going headless and going to PWAs and SPAs and get the customer even better experiences and faster shops and such, we started using Vue Storefront at the beginning of 2020 as well, and then became a core partner quite quickly. So let's talk about why we started this integration next. Why did we start this integration? Well, while working with Vue Storefront, we quickly discovered it was quite hard to get started with, to set it up, to onboard new developers for new projects, and to maintain existing projects. So we brainstormed, and we print out a few points what we wanted to improve, and we thought how we can improve Vue Storefront 1 to actually have those points implemented. So we wanted to, our goals were to improve the developer experience, to make it easier to get started, to have easier code to work with, and to somehow get a smaller tech stack. At that point, we discovered Vue Storefront Next as a project, as a further development of Vue Storefront 1. And we took a look at the roadmap, and we took a look what it was all about and what their concepts were. And we thought, well, this looks quite good. And but there is actually no plans of integrating this with Magento. So we took it to ourselves and started this integration. And here we are today. So now I want to show you how to get started with our integration. And for this, I prepared a quick demo. So how to get started? Simply invoke the CLI with VSF init and then give your project a name. In this case, I will simply use, this is my test project. After hitting enter, you will be prompted to choose an integration. In this case, of course, we want to use Magento. After hitting enter, the CLI generates a fresh Magento project for you. When the CLI is done, simply cd into this is my test project, and install all your dependencies. And then you can simply run yarn dev and you're good to go with our demo instance. So to sum this all up, download the latest version of the CLI, initialize a new project, choose Magento as the integration you want. After this, cd into the directory of your project, install the dependencies, and hit yarn dev. If you want to use your own Magento, just go to your Next config.js and configure this configuration to fit your needs. For more info on how to configure this configuration, simply consult the documentation. The next thing I want to talk about is a few code examples which compare Vue Storefront 1 on the one hand to Vue Storefront Next on the other hand. I took 3 examples from the default theme shipping with Vue Storefront Next and the same functions from the Capybara theme with Vue Storefront 1, so I can get the best possible comparison between those 2 versions and make it really clear for you guys on what the differences are. I took all 3 examples from the category page and stripped down the code to the bare minimum as good as possible to make just this one feature I'm talking about working. So for the sake of completion, I left in the initial page setup because it's needed in Vue Storefront Next in this case anyway, and it will probably cause problems with Vue Storefront 1 when you left it out. And so it makes up a lot of code actually in Vue Storefront 1, but like I said, I left it in so we have the best possible comparison between those 2. So actually, let's start with the filters from the category page. Here is our first main difference between Vue Storefront 1 and Vue Storefront Next. In Vue Storefront 1, you had to actually pre-configure your filters in your configuration, but that's not the case anymore. Because we use the data directly from the GraphQL endpoint of Magento, we use the filters that are configured inside of Magento, like you would if you use the vanilla frontend of Magento or any theme for Magento directly, for example. So you can actually extend Vue Storefront 1 to get the same functionality, but to get this working, you have to extend the indexer, and then you have to take a look, okay, where are the filter functions called, in which store are these functions, how do I extend or override some functions inside that store, where are my side effects when doing this, do I even break something? And it's not that easy, but it's manageable, it's doable. So, but let's take a look at the code for a moment. On the left side, like you might have noticed, is the Vue Storefront Next code from the filters. And on the right side is the filters code from Vue Storefront 1. The first thing you notice is that it's very easy to understand. It's better readable and less cluttered than this. I guess you understand what the code does, or most of the code does, by the first look. The difference between Vue Storefront 1 and Vue Storefront Next is, of course, composables. Everything you need is in easy-to-use composables, which simply return some objects, some result objects, or some methods to fill the result objects. And you don't have to take a look at actions, at the mutations, and all the getters inside Vuex. So it's very easy for newbies or for new developers which are not that experienced with Vue.js and Vuex to get started. So another difference is that you less often need to restructure or structure the data to use in your template in general. So all the heavy lifting of structuring, like it's done here in the available filters, for example, is done through the composable in the background. So you just have to invoke the composable and use the data you get with a getter, and you're good to go. For example, in this case of the next, you simply invoke the useFaceit composable with the data from the current route in the onSSR call. And after this in the background gathers all the information, fills in the results object, and you can simply go with a getter and use the values that it's got, and group them by the values you want, and in the end simply return them to the template, loop over them, and bam, you're good to go. So that's my first example. Second example will be the products. So you can see much less code on the left and a bit more on the right. So let's talk about the products then. With Vue Storefront Next, it's way easier to set up the whole the initial page data than it was with Vue Storefront 1. You simply, in this case, like I mentioned before, invoke the useFaceit, destructure it to get your results object and the search method. The search method in this case is for getting the data in the background. After this, you simply give your search method the data it needs to gather the data in the background. Then it will restructure them and simply fills out the results object. And after this, you can use one of the many getters for each composable and simply use the parts you need from all the results object and return them to the template and simply use them. So last but not least, I want to talk about the breadcrumbs, and here it's quite clear how much easier to understand and writing code with Vue Storefront Next is. Just set up the basic page state, then use the correct getters, and you're good to go. And that's it, as you can see here. This is, I guess, one of the most basic examples on how easy it is to get data with Vue Storefront Next. So to sum this all up, you have very little boilerplate code. It's easy to set up the initial page data. It's easy and straightforward to read and understand the code. And overall, you have less code in your templates and you have less code in the whole component or page. So it's just about half the code of Vue Storefront 1 in comparison. So thank you guys for listening. If you have any further questions, feel free to hit me up on Twitter at DomiDaimel, send me a direct message on LinkedIn, or even contact me via email. And special thanks to the guys from Vue Storefront for having me, and stay healthy, stay safe, guys. See you in the Q&A section. Bye.